Profile share via email report story. Chapter 28 The First Date. He knocked on the door, breathing in and out carefully, feeling the pressure in the atmosphere. He waited nervously for the door to open. It was 9 in the morning and Izuku set his alarm at 6 just to prepare for conversations and places for today's date. He wore his usual white t-shirt but added a coat to make himself look a bit more formal. He hoped he looked okay. He really wanted this date to go well for the both of them. Now that he thought of it, he never actually knew where were they going in the first place. He swore in his head that she did say something after getting mesmerized by her yesterday when they were discussing. Deku-kun, tomorrow there will be a festival at night. So let's go there, alright? Yeah, I like that movie as well. Izuku bulged his eyes a bit and realized what Ochako actually meant. Does that mean she's going to wear a yukata? Then the door opened. No, I'm not ready for this. Deku-kun, she greeted with a smile. She was wearing short sky blue pants and a yellow t-shirt. She looked pretty normal. He sighed in relief and showed her a smile back as he greeted. Gee, good morning, Ochako. She blushed with a grin, seeing his formal attire. Shall we go? He then nodded, nervously. Why yeah, as she closed the door, he asked her. Aren't we going to the festival today? Yeah, it's tonight. Once she said that, her voice became a low one as her cheeks burnt red. He nodded and frowned a bit behind her back. She's not going to wear it after all. What did you say? Nothing. He waved his hands. Let's go. She nodded back. Yeah, alright, so where are we going? Ochako just gave off a smile and a short chuckle. Come on, when we still have the time. She then grabbed onto one of his hands. Izuku flinched as she started pulling him. Oh okay, he said. The two started walking downstairs to the exit, with their hands intertwined. Izuku started sweating, worried that it is also happening in his palms where she was holding onto. As they exited, they started walking on the streets and made their way to the destination on where Ochako was bringing them. We're holding hands, we really look like a couple, he thought in his head, and it only made him more nervous than before. He was already embarrassed by the fact that he could feel his own palms already sweaty. He was just that nervous. There, she pointed. Izuku then looked over to the direction on where she was pointing at. It was a typical joyful and colorful, small amusement park. He chuckled as he grinned at her. You really like to go to those places. She nodded, proudly with her aura shimmering around her as she felt the excitement and urge in going in there. Yes, promoted stories. You'll also like the 1 Todoroki X Reader, check mark. 774K 22.5K and quad. It's just, and quad. Her eyes were brimming with tears. No, please don't cry, I silently begged, I can't stand to see you hurt. And quad, I don't want to see any of. Stars aligned Katsuki Bakugo X Fem. Re. 119K 3.5K. A new student enrolled into UA, one with abilities she cannot begin to fathom, abilities she never knew of and cannot control. As dangers lurk at every corner, the Vil. Hate Meet Bakudaku. 1.3M 34.8K. Ranked number 1 in Bakudaku on 12.4.22. Strawberry Izuku Midoriya is just a useless kid without a quirk. Bakugo Katsuki is a ticking time bomb aiming for the top. When Deku beats all T. A million reasons. Izwocha fanfic. Under. 70.6K 988. Ochako Uraraka and Izuku Midoriya have always had feelings for each other, but they never wanted to admit it. They have always wanted to find opportunities to tell each. A hero's love desire. 3.6K71. It's almost Valentine's Day and Izuku Midoriya, Deku is starting to realize that he has a crush on Ochako Uraraka, but he doesn't know if she feels the same way. He tries. Lover's Day. Izuku Midoriya X Reader X Bakig. 182K6.1K. Valentine's Day Competition. At your hero academia. What will happen when an innocent holiday becomes a vicious competition? Friends become rivals. Rivals remain The support general course. Quirkless. Deck. 41K 1.3K. Izuku got into just not the hero course. Taking both support and general classes, Izuku aims to graduate from after giving up on his hero dreams. Quirkless he couldn't stand it, she was too cute. Alright then. They then went inside the building itself. Inside there were different varieties inside the place. There were stalls with different games to play and to win prizes such as stuffed toys. Food areas where you get to try out some of the unique shaped food styles and those common types like popcorn or cotton candy. Especially the main part were the rides. Ferris wheel, roller coaster, bumper cars, tricycles, you name it, they were all there. People who worked there for entertainment such as clowns who make balloons into animal-shaped ones, the bubble blower who makes bubbles and lets children enjoy their time and having fun in blowing bubbles, and magicians who could let a rabbit appear inside his own hat. It was like Wonderland for Ochako, and she just can't take her eyes off the colorful vicinity. She gapped her mouth wider after every single thing she sees next. Same goes for Izuku. He has never actually been into one of these types of places, so everything was still so new to him. He was a bit lost, but he just continued to admire Ochako's features and facial expressions in everything she does. Deku-kun, come on, let's go. She couldn't wait. She was too excited to try out the different things she could do now. He chuckled at her. Never been to these places. She shook her head embarrassingly. I've always wanted to go, but I never got the chance to do so. He looked at her, sadly, as she started to frown. He then immediately grabbed her onto the cheeks and made her eyes look straight into his. He then said, then we should make our first moment here together the best and last one yet. Ochako's eyes glittered as she gaped her mouth into smile and looked at him with joy. Yes, he held onto her hand once again. Let's go. Yeah, as the two walked inside, they didn't know where to start. It's like picking things you want to try out first but could only do it once because you want to try the others as well before time runs out. If only time wasn't limited, they would have made the day even better and longer. Let's go here, Deku-kun. She pointed at one of the game stalls. H here, alright. He then followed her by her pulling his arms gently to go a bit faster. The two reached the place and saw toy guns placed on the table in front of them and objects such as bottles and cans laying on the shelf across the stall. The man working there smiled at the couple. You wanna have try? He asked them. Ochako immediately nodded. Yes, we will. She looked over to Izuku. You can do it, right? Me. Why me? I don't know how to play that. He told her. Ochako frowned at him. Oh, I see. Sorry, I didn't thought of that. She felt embarrassed. It's alright, Deku-kun, we'll just take the rides. Sorry for forcing you. She smiled at him. Her face clearly shows how embarrassing that was to say it. Izuku felt stupid. Oh, on second thought, I would like to try. Her eyes shone at him brightly along with her smile just making it brighter. Really? She looked at him with hope in her eyes. He sweated. I'll try. As long as she keeps that smile on her face, I'll be fine. The man nodded and received the cash from Izuku for one round. You really are a good boyfriend. He gave him a thumbs up to him. Izuku blushed with his words and shook his head. Hope you can win. It's embarrassing, but I'll try my best. Izuku responded as he bent down to hold onto one of the guns and aimed carefully at the targeted objects. The man announced, different kinds of bottles with different points. You will get 5 bullets each round. The bigger the points, the harder it is to shoot. If you get 50 points, you win 1 prize. If you get 100 points, you win 2 prizes. He then signaled Izuku to start shooting. Izuku breathed in slowly and started to focus. Just win 100 points and you will get your prizes, he whispered under his breath. Seeing Ochako smile again, as he said that quietly, he took a shot and managed to knock down a 20-point bottle. I did it, he said in astonishment. Yay, Deku-kun. Ochako cheered as she clapped for him. Izuku blushed even more, hearing Ochako's happy and cute tone in his ears again. Alright, 80 points more. He took another shot and knocked off a 10-point bottle. Deku-kun, you can do it, he then aimed for the 30-point bottle. He took a sharp inhale as he pulled the trigger and shot it perfectly. Yay, Ochako cheered again. He started to get nervous. Come on, just a few more. I only got 2 bullets left. His brain started processing. 60 points was all he got and he needs 40 more to win it. Which means he could hit 2 20-point bottles and win this thing. He then aimed at the 20-point bottle. Carefully he pulled trigger. Unfortunately, he missed carelessly. Shoot, he swore in his head. Oh no, Ochako sadly said. It's alright, Deku-kun. You don't have to get 100 points, 1 toy is enough. Izuku gulped, feeling sad by the fact that his chances of winning is decreasing and the chances of seeing Ochako smile with the prizes he won for her is also at rock bottom. He can't lose to this. That's gonna be a tough one. The man told, eyeing at the small 40-point bottle. Izuku sighed carefully and aimed at that specific bottle. His hands were shaking and his head was full of sweat. His breathing was unstable as he nervously held onto the trigger. You can do it, Deku-kun, she said in a soft, sweet tone to calm him down. Izuku widened his eyes and inhaled sharply as he pulled the trigger. For Ochako, he said in his mind. After that, the bullet struck directly at the 40-point bottle. His eyes bulged as his mouth widened and raised his arm with victory. I did it, he shouted. Ochako screamed as well when he shot the last bottle. Yay, Deku-kun. Congratulations, take 2 to take home. He pointed at the adorable different types of stuffed animal toys. Her eyes looked at each of the following dolls carefully as she makes her decision. She then caught 2 that was eye-catching for her. That green and pink bear over there. She pointed at the 2 bears. Excellent choice, he said as he brought the prizes down and handed it to them. Izuku smiled and saw Ochako hugging the average-sized bears with such an adorable look when she cuddled with them. So soft. Izuku gaped his mouth into a smile as he closed his eyes and looked at her in awe. So cute, I have successfully achieved my prize. Here, Deku-kun. She handed him the pink bear. He opened his eyes and looked at her confused. What is this? He held onto the bear. For you, I'll have the green bear which represents you and you'll have the pink which represents me. She grinned at him with her eyes closed. Now we have a souvenir each, right? Izuku felt his heart squeezed tightly as if it was about pop. By now he can't handle the cuteness anymore, she was just that damn adorable. He then quickly held onto her hand tightly. Ochako looked up at him, worried. You okay, Deku-kun? He nodded with his face turning red. His mouth squirmed nervously. I think the bear thing was just a great idea. She smiled at him back. You think so too? Yay. He breathed out calmly and he began to relax after a few minutes. Now, where should we go? To the roller coaster, she said happily. Izuku bulged his eyes and sweated. Our roller coasters. Yeah, she then looked over to him but only to see his face covered in more sweat. Why you okay? He nodded once again. It's just hot. So, let's go to the roller coaster. She smiled unsurely. Alright. They then went towards the place. You sure? As the two stepped inside the ride, they buckled themselves in their seats as the safety pole was gently placed in front of them to hold onto to for the intense ride. You sure about this, Deku-kun? He nodded. Why yeah, I'm perfectly fine. Passengers are ready. Prepare for the ride. Ochako then suddenly placed her hand on top of his one which was gripping tightly onto the pole. Deku-kun, you're scared of roller coasters, aren't you? Izuku gulped as he looked straight into her eyes. And not exactly. She snorted and shook her head. Don't worry, Deku-kun. I'm here. He continued to stare at her and smiled. But as soon as he did, the man in charge of the controls pulled down the lever as the ride started moving. Ah, it's starting. Ah, Izuku screamed loudly. Deku-kun. Izuku stopped as he looked back at her. The ride is still moving slowly. After the amount of rides and games they played and went to, the sky was beginning to get darker as darkness meets. It was time for the festival, so both Izuku and Ochako went to the venue where the fireworks display will show. Izuku waited outside the bathroom and constantly looked at his watch to see the time. Ochako was taking too long in the bathroom. It's almost been 30 minutes. He was a bit worried, but he decided to wait a little longer. Ochako stared at her reflection as she nervously puckered her lips after putting a small amount of lipstick on her lips. She tied her hair carefully, placing her decorated flower on the side nicely. She fixed up her clothing and looked back at the mirror to see herself. She blushed and looked down. I hope he will like this. She then made her way out and saw Izuku facing his back, looking at the festival area. Deku-kun, she called him. Ah, Ochako, you should come here quick, there's this. He said while turning at her but couldn't even finish his sentence due to the image he's seeing in front of his eyes. Ochako wearing a light pink yukata with a massive dark pink cloth wrapped around her waist as it made a big ribbon at the back. Her pink decorated flower was still perfectly clipped on the side of her hair as it matched nicely with the clothes. She stood there beautifully holding the green bear in her hands. She looked down, shyly and blushed slightly. What do you think? Izuku stared at her blankly. His eyes can't stop staring at her. He wants to see every detail of her right now but didn't have the brain juice to process. He then fell down the ground, unconsciously and rested. Deku-kun. Ochako tapped on his shoulders multiple times to see if he was alright. Luckily, after a few minutes, he managed to regain his consciousness. But only to find Ochako with her yukata again. Oh Ochako. He then stood up immediately as he helped her up as well. Why are you wearing this? It's a festival, right? She looked down, embarrassingly. It really isn't nice for you, am I right? Izuku widened his eyes and immediately realized his idiotic brain was literally failing him right now. His brain wasn't supposed to be in that state in the first place. And no, it's just. He paused. I thought you wouldn't wear one, but when you suddenly did, it gave me a heart attack to see how beautiful you really are in one. He closed his eyes, embarrassingly. There was a long silence between them. Izuku briefly peeked at her expression and she was utterly shocked. She then snorted and started to chuckle. Izuku stared at her with disbelief. Deku-kun, you're so funny when you talk embarrassingly like that. He stared at her more and scratched the back of his neck. Sorry. She then stopped laughing. Don't worry about it, I'm glad you told me that. She intertwined her hands around his immediately when she reached him. Shall we go? Izuku gulped nervously and nodded. Why? yeah, they went off as they made their way to the fireworks display. Ochako in a yukata. This is bad. I'm sweating so much. I need to act normal quick. Hey, Ochako, he called. She looked up at him. Yeah, want to buy some takoyaki while we watch? Her smile brightened up as her eyes sparkled. Yes, I'd like that. The both of them then went to a takoyaki stall and ordered. While waiting, they suddenly heard a certain person calling their names. Midoriya, Uraraka. Izuku flinched and hesitatingly looked back at the direction of the voice, hoping it wasn't the guy he'd expected. But it was him, unfortunately. He wasn't in a yukata as well, only the girl next to him. KK Kaminari, Jiro-san, Ochako continued, seeing the unusual Jiro in a yukata. Kaminari grinned at them sweetly. Hey, there, what do you guys think of Jiro wearing such an adorable yukata? Such a rare opportunity to see, right? Stop it, idiot. She punched his arm as he started laughing. Both of you also came to see the fireworks as well. Kaminari nodded and smirked at the two. Well then, have fun, you two Tilda. He then smoothly left the conversation. But before he did, he whispered to Izuku. By the way, you guys look so cute from the back. Get away from me, Izuku shouted with his cheeks burning red as Kaminari ran away while giggling here and there again. Gosh, that guy. Oh, Midoriya, called Todoroki from the back. Izuku immediately looked over to the voice. Todoroki, he said. Yaoyaoruzu-san, Todoroki, you're wearing a yukata. Izuku said as he looked down at the boy's formal well-made attire. Yaoyaoruzu-san, you look so pretty in your red yukata. Ochako complimented the elegant lady as she blushed embarrassingly. But you're especially so cute, Uraraka-san. Todoroki then went over to Izuku. So how's today so far? Izuku gave him a straight thumbs up on both hands with a smile as he furrowed his eyebrows. It's going great. Seeing you two, it's unbelievable that you guys are actually dating. I could say the same for you and Yaoyaoruzu-san. Todoroki looked at him with disbelief. Well, excuse me, I think Momo and I look perfectly together. I feel like Ochako wore the yukata better when I saw Yaoyaoruzu with you. Todoroki fought back. Are you blind? Can you see the angel in front of your eyes wearing red? Well, look again. I think you're mistaken. You're mistaken. Deku-kun. Ochako called. Izuku flinched as he looked back to see her holding the takoyaki they ordered. Our takoyaki is done, she told with a sweet smile. He chuckled nervously. I see. Alright, let's go now. Momo wore it better, Todoroki whispered in his ear just as Izuku was about to leave. Stop it, Izuku stopped him. We shall discuss this tomorrow. Deku-kun, she called him again. Izuku then ran towards his girlfriend as they made their way to the venue. Momo then went back to Todoroki. So what were you guys talking about? How you are the best person wearing a yukata. Momo's face immediately covered herself with red blush. Izuku placed an available mat they bought at a small store for them to sit on the grass for them to watch the fireworks. Once they finished preparing, they both sat comfortably on the mat. The male nervously sat next to her and waited for the fireworks to begin. It was genuinely awkward and he felt afraid that Ochako would feel uncomfortable due to this situation. It was quiet. Deku-kun. Yes. He was caught by surprise and saw Ochako taking a bite of the takoyaki. She pointed at it on the mat. Want some? Izuku then smiled nervously and nodded. Thank you. He took one and started eating it. The taste of the flavor was just beyond delicious and he can't help but just say it was good. It's so good, right? Ochako said, as she took another. Then came along Izuku taking his seconds as well. After they finished eating, then came again the silence. They stared at the grass, the trees, the field and the night sky. Anything that they would just eye it besides each other. But thankfully, Ochako broke it. Hey, Deku-kun, look at the sky. Izuku looked at her and started to smile as his eyes went to the sky. I know, it's really pretty. It is, indeed, she said. Just look at the stars, my gosh. He chuckled. It just takes your breath away. She did the same and hooded her eyes. Izuku kept staring at the sky until Ochako suddenly rested her head on his shoulder, which caught him off guard as he jolted with surprise. Ochako felt it and it made her chuckle. Can I tell you something, Deku-kun? Why yes, she then said. I just want to say that, I'm really happy to get to have someone like you. Me, yeah, I'm so glad that you are the one right here by my side right now. Izuku frowned with the words she said. He started thinking negatively as he looked away to the grass. I'm not that great. I feel like someone deserves you better. I'm not strong, I'm not athletic, and I'm not that good looking. So I should be glad that someone as amazing, no, wait, perfect as you is dating someone like me. But Ochako's response was only seen with her face showing a pout in her lips as she furrowed her eyebrows angrily. Why are you suddenly angry? Deku-kun, she pouted more. Don't say those bad stuffs about yourself. Those are not why I love you so much. It's because you're completely different than the other boys. You're careful, caring, gentle, sweet, humble and adorable. And seeing you is like the most perfect person who fits for that. Izuku blushed as his heart started beating rapidly at maximum speed. Oh Ochako, he breathed in sharply. I think you are the most perfect girl for me actually. I was never interested in girls and having a relationship, but when I met you, you completely changed my perspectives and made me realize that I always need you by my side every day, which I never knew I would experience these kinds of feelings for you. The words Izuku suddenly said out of the open was perfectly said, as if it was scripted, but it wasn't. It really came from the heart itself. He and Ochako looked at each other with widened eyes with the words they just said to each other as they averted their gaze and looked away, embarrassingly, hiding their blush. They stopped talking again, but Izuku tried his best to do something about it as soon as he turned around again. Ochako did the same and they ended up face to face only inches away from each other. They both gulped in surprise, doing the same actions. Ochako said to him, but only decreasing the gap between them. Why you really mean that? He paused to just stare at her. His body wanted to be thrown off the place itself, since his heart is already reaching its limits. Thankfully, he managed to control it and answer her back. I really mean it. Once he said that, he gulped his nervousness in. I'm really in love with you. But slowly, that awkwardness soon faded away between them. She then whispered to him, as small tears appeared in her eyes. Deku-kun. Then came a smile along with it. No, 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 don't cry, he said to her, immediately with his eyebrows saddening. I don't want to see you cry again. She chuckled and closed her eyes as the tear dropped down. Izuku then wiped it off of her cheeks, gently as he caressed those soft cheeks of hers. I'm crying because I'm too happy. She opened her eyes and whispered softly. I love you, Deku-kun. Izuku slowly breathed in and out, looking intently into her shimmering eyes. His serious face, but yet his cheeks won't stop blushing, was shown as he said back. Ochako, I love you more. He then landed his lips on hers immediately as Ochako gladly kissed him back. And as soon as they kissed, at the same time, the fireworks began. The two didn't care about the loud noises coming from the fireworks anymore. They just wanted to cherish this moment, only just the two of them. This moment was something both of them would never forget as well. They felt like they were in their own world. As the two broke their long kiss, they stared at each other's eyes along with their features from their faces, looking at every single detail. The fireworks lighting up their faces as the colorful lights shone upon them. Ochako, he called her, just to admire her more. But all of a sudden, she gave off a soft smile as she stood up in front of him and faced at him. Hey, Deku-kun, this day is really the best day I've ever had. He looked up at her, with her hand reaching out to him. Come on, let's continue our date while we still have time. Izuku then reached out his hand as he grabbed onto hers. He was still mesmerized of how beautiful she looked against the fireworks at the back of her, glowing her up with her glamorous yukata and wind blowing her hair gracefully. She smiled sweetly at him. Promise, we'll be together forever, okay? Dash 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 dot. Beep 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 beep. The sound of the alarm alerted Izuku as he smashed it off as he looked straight at the ceiling with his eyes looking completely blank. His eyes stared at it, as he awoken from his slumber. He felt empty and devastated. What happened? He said to himself as he got out off bed sleepily. He stretched out his arms and gave out a long yawn. As he did, he looked over at a certain object sitting on his study table in front of him. There appeared a pink teddy bear. Now we have a souvenir each, right? That sweet angelic voice rang into his ears as soon as he saw the bear. He then widened his eyes as he looked at his bedroom window, looking directly at Ochako's one. In Ochako's window, there wasn't any of her pink curtains covering her room with. He looked through and saw the room was vacant. He stared at it for a few good minutes and told under his breath. Oh yeah, he sighed, looking down with an expressionless face as he continued, which was truly devastating. She's not here anymore. Ah. Finally the main stuffs are done. Two more chaps omgggt carat ti will definitely miss this book so much. And also, I already settled the date I'm gonna start writing my next book, Killing Addict. Hope you guys would look forward to it, smiley face. See you this Thursday. Thank you all. Where stories live. Discover now.